Hi, welcome to our live stream video today. I'm Nicole Bulanda. I'm a commercial program manager at Rockwell Automation, and today we'll be sharing a sneak peek of the Automation Fair Industry Forums. You'll hear an inside scoop from the Automation Fair Industry Forum moderators, but we also want to hear from you during this live stream. So tell us in the comments, what industry forums do you plan to attend at Automation Fair? What are you hoping to learn more about? And we will take that feedback and we'll try to weave it in the next couple of weeks as we're getting ready for the show. So make sure that you're active down there in the comments. Give us something to work with, okay? Make us work a little bit. So the first forum that we'd like to talk about is our chemical forum. And our moderator for the chemical forum is Michael O'Sullivan. Thanks for joining us, Michael, on our live stream.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for putting it together.
Yeah. So, Michael, we keep hearing a lot of themes over and over again in the chemical industry. Digitalization, sustainability, of course,
Right.
post-pandemic recovery, cybersecurity. Do you
Yes.
have any indication which of these themes might get brought up in our panel? Maybe more than one of them? What do you think?
Just so happens I have some inside information on that. And
Good.
I can tell you this though. So we're going to talk about all that. But the digitalization thing is really going to be woven through the whole discussion because it's not digital is not really an objective like by itself. It's a way that we achieve a lot of these other things. So whatever we end up talking about, whether it's like pandemic recovery or sustainability or worker safety, the digital part shows up in there. We're going to see a lot of different ways it adds value. And of course, we're going to talk about cybersecurity because everybody's talking about cybersecurity, and particularly in these industrial environments now where we're connecting everything to something else. And so it's a whole new set of risks. But the thing about the panel is, and a lot of panels like this, beyond like the facts and the specifications, which you can read anywhere, the thing that when people come and listen to these panels, what they really want to hear is real people talking about how real people are getting these things done. What are the priorities? What's getting funded? All of that stuff that you just don't get that from reading stuff online. So that's where the panel of experts, they're not only gonna talk to the audience, but they're gonna talk with each other, and they're gonna bring a lot of this out. And I can tell you that I've spent some time with all of these folks, and they are not gonna disappoint.
Awesome. That's great. And I agree with you there. I think that is by far for all of the industry forums, we just like to know what everybody else is doing, right? So it's so
Everybody.
valuable to hear it straight from them, what they're working on, what's prioritized, like you said, what got funded at their
Right.
company. Totally
Yep.
agree. So,
Yes.
Mike, you're coming in with an advantage as a moderator because you are a podcast host.
I
You're the
am.
host of OGGN. Can you tell us about
What?
that? What is that?
Yeah. So I'm the host of two of the podcasts that OGG and the Oil and Gas Global Network, which Mark is a part of. Which Mark is actually the editor in chief, and we have a whole bunch of podcasts. And the two that I host focus on technology, a couple of different aspects of technology. Um, so it's funny because this panel was very easy for me to prepare for. Don't tell anybody, but I didn't have to prepare at all because it's all the same stuff that we talk about. We have weekly episodes of two different shows, and we hit this stuff all the time. So it's the things that people want to hear about on the podcast are very much the same. We talk a lot about edge computing on the podcast, which used to mostly be about the oil field. But now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of attention on refineries and chemical plants for edge computing. There's lots of interest on all the different things you can do with data, right? Especially the data that's coming from industrial control systems, of all things, which, there's huge value there, but there's a lot of challenges. The security thing is big on the podcast. We talk about that. In fact, if I let it happen, we would probably talk about security every single time. But the thing is but every one of those discussions always comes around to, okay, but how do I don't just tell me what the technology does, tell me what I'm supposed to do. How do I help make my company successful? And so the same place we're going to end up on this panel is where we end up a lot of times on the podcast.
I'm really excited that you're our host too, because since you've had some of these conversations already before, I know you're going to get us to
I've
the next
practiced. I
level.
know it works out
Yeah,
well for
it's
me
going to be
to have a
a
little
really good
practice. Yeah,
discussion.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Michael. We are really looking forward to the Chemical Forum. For everybody who's tuning in right now, you can pre-register for the Chemical Forum as part of when you register for Automation Fair. You can show up in person to go to it in Houston. And then if for some reason you're not able to join us in Houston, Texas for the live show, we will also be broadcasting this forum so you can watch it from home or from your office or wherever you might be as well. So thanks so much, Michael.
Yep, sure thing.
And I think we should switch gears here to another one of our industry forums, and let's bring up Steve Dietzer, please. Steve is going to be moderating our food and beverage forum at Automation Fair. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Happy to join, Nicole. Thanks a bunch.
I love your backdrop too. Like you just look like you're a reader and a super smart guy. I can't wait to hear some of the stuff that comes up out of from you at your forum. But I have some questions for you. So my first one is, what are you seeing technology-wise in the food and beverage space? What's being deployed by companies? And do you think some of this might come up during the forum and how?
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing extensive use of digital thread solutions throughout the industry and flexible manufacturing solutions. So customers are leveraging emulation simulation to do virtual commissioning of lines from their desk, which is saving them weeks of labor of doing the same on the floor. They're using AR, VR to create experiences for their operators and technicians to operate and maintain the machinery from. Analytics are getting deployed to more tightly control processes and minimize waste, and we're seeing cloud-based MES being delivered and scaled across the plants faster and more cost effectively than ever. And really loving the use of ICT, so MagnaMotion and iTrack to enable flexible manufacturing.
Great. Yeah. So ICT, if that is an acronym that you don't know, is Independent Cart Technology. And we will be showing that at Automation Fair in two of our booths as well, in actually three of our booths. We'll have MagnaMotion as well as Independent Cart Technology shown. But I love hearing customers talk about how they're using it because it sounds like they have very different ways that they implement it based on what their plant or their line looks like. So that'll be interesting to hear from them.
I am looking forward to it myself. So these solutions have all felt very in the future for a long time, but they're here now. They provide true ROI, great return, and they're enabling customers to get faster to market, deliver with less waste, and with more customization.
Excellent. And that was, I was going to ask you, like this is, we've heard about some of these for a while. We've heard about AR, VR. It's starting to pick up steam. Why is it really taking off now? And I think you kind of just answered that, right? Like we're starting to be able to prove some of the business value of it. Do you think there's other reasons why this is really starting to embed itself into the way food and beverage companies do business?
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to find people nowadays too. So these are a way to augment the capabilities of a plant, to make the plant operate much more effectively and efficiently, and to get those resources that they do have up to speed much more quickly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. I'm excited for the Food and Beverage Forum. I think it's going to be a great one. If you're coming to the Food and Beverage Forum, tell us down below in the comments if there's anything here that we were just chatting about really briefly that you think sounds cool, or if you have ideas of things you'd like to hear about from your peers as we listen to the Food and Beverage Forum in a couple of weeks. We'll take note of your comments. Make sure you put them down below. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Great. And so if you're not registered for the Food and Beverage Forum, you can pre-register for that. If you're going to show up at Automation Fair Live, you can also just walk right in the door. We're not going to slap your hand or anything. Come on in. And if you're going to watch it live from home, you can do that as well because we'll be live streaming it. So for those of you just joining us, welcome back to our live stream where we are discussing what we're going to see at the Automation Fair Industry Forums. And next up, we're talking about life sciences. So here with me today is Gagan Najer, who will be moderating the Life Sciences Forum at Automation Fair. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gagan.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. So your forum is titled Digital Transformation in Life Sciences, The Road Ahead. Can you give us an example of some of the challenges that might be waiting down the road ahead and how our customers could be addressing it through digital transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting time in life sciences, right? We, as an industry, right, we grew out of like small molecule where you were treating diseases based on symptoms. And the current trend is we're treating diseases based on biologics, right? So it's a bigger superset of the industry out there and the number of patients that it actually addresses. But the new trend as you look forward is really going to be going to the batch of one and having it customized and personalized to an individual, right? And so when you take that trend forward and you say, what does that mean and how does digital transformation help me to get ahead of that? What that basically means is that right now, if you look at how manufacturing is done, even at some of our largest customers, right, you have R&D, you have clinical, you have full-scale manufacturing, you're going to see that change, that whole supply chain change. And I think we saw it unfold in front of our eyes, even with Pfizer, right, where the core science was done in one location. You had the manufacturing done within Pfizer, right, but the core science actually wasn't done there. And that trend is going to continue where contract manufacturers are going to be a bigger part of that equation. And so the biggest challenge that I see digital transformation kind of solving, and what we're going to be talking about on the panel, is how do you transfer data between organizations where you keep data integrity, but you keep that IP associated with the organization, but share enough where they can help you with the next part of what you need to do as part of the supply chain. And so we're going to talk a lot about what those best practices are. How do you share that information? Those are high value disconnects that the industry is actually working on currently, but that challenge is going to grow as we move more towards personalized medicine.
That is super interesting. Yeah, thinking about how that manufacturing is now outside of the four walls of the facility. How do they share information? How do they make sure it's speaking the same language? And I mean, working in other industries too, I know this is not unique to life sciences. There's data transfer, custody transfer of IP in a bunch of different industries. So I think this will be a very, very interesting forum, especially for life science customers, but even for folks who maybe are not in the industry. There's a lot to be learned from this challenge that life sciences customers are facing right now. So I do
Yeah,
have one more question for you. Tell us about your speakers. Who's coming? What are you excited? Who are you excited to hear from? What is it about these speakers that's going to really get our audience going?
so I guess one word I would use to describe the panel that we have, and I'm so excited about the speakers, is perspective, right? That's the one word I think would sum it up, right? We have Pfizer, one of the largest pharmaceuticals in the world. We have Cytiva, one of the largest OEMs in the world. We have Thermo Fisher, one of the largest contract manufacturers in the world. And then we have the Calypso team, who has the depth and breadth of having solved this with industry leaders, right, where they can bring that perspective of how does it really come together, what's possible, what is the FDA really allowing, how do you do this, what are the best practices. So I would say in one word, in terms of what gets me excited about the speakers and the panel, is you're going to get such a great perspective on a common issue across OEM, large pharmaceuticals, contract manufacturers, and people who've just been there and done that.
Very cool. Yeah. Wow. Those are some really good names. I think it'll be interesting to hear their perspective on, what's going on in the industry, as well as some of those specific topics that you mentioned earlier that are going to be planned to be asked about. So I'm super excited for the Life Sciences Forum. Thank you for coming in today and giving us a little sneak peek of what's to come. And just a reminder for anybody who's watching this live stream, you can pre-register if you want for this forum as part of your automation fair registration process that you do online. You can also just show up at the door and come on in. We will welcome you in if you're there in Houston. And you can also watch this live. It'll be broadcast live, and you'll be able to enter questions as you're watching it, if you're watching it from home as well. So lots of options for how to access this content. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, let's switch gears again. Let's head over to the heavy industries a little bit, the process side of things, over to Mark LaCour, who's going to be our moderator for the Oil and Gas Forum. Welcome, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nicole.
Yeah. So, Mark, I know that, and we heard this earlier in our live stream, that you are also a podcaster and that you spend a lot of time with people in the oil and gas industry. What do you make of how the industry is evolving and how digital transformation is going to be playing a role in its future, or is already starting to play a role in
Yeah,
its future?
yeah, great question. So the industry has no choice but to become more efficient, to have leaner operations, lessen our impact to the environment. We're competing now with some of the renewables out there. So the industry has to embrace technology to drive efficiencies, but it also at the same time it actually drives things that people don't think about, like production, right? So when you have the machines out there doing the work, the mistakes that people make usually don't happen. So then you don't have downtime. And so it's not just about running lean, efficient operations. It's also about increasing production, reducing workplace incidents, lost time time incidences. And it's just really cool to see this new younger workforce come into the oil and gas industry and go, yeah, we can do it. I mean, I'm excited. For 25 years, I've been wanting this industry to change, and finally it's happening right now underneath our feet.
Well, that's exciting. You're getting me like excited about oil and gas, which is surprising me. Good job, Mark. So at your forum, we're going to be covering themes like, and some of these you just mentioned, lean, remote operations, the energy transition. What are some things you expect to hear from the speakers? What are some trends in these areas that you think are probably going to come up?
So one of my favorite things about the forums with Rockwell is we're talking to people that's literally it's actionable information. So it's not academia. It's rubber hit the road. It's people that's
Their
really
life.
done it, that's really had to hit budgets, really had to hit timelines, start dates, and that is so valuable when you actually get to talk to people that have actually done it. Not only to learn the mistakes they made, but how did they pull it off? How do they change the culture of their company? How do they make sure these projects were successful? That's always an exciting thing to hear, how companies are able to implement change and actually pull it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like there's just this like little nosy part I think of all of us, and I have this for sure. Like I want to know what other companies are doing. I want to hear what's working. I want to hear what's not working. I don't want to make the same mistakes that my competitors have made. Like it's just so nice to be able to hear that right from their mouths. Like what are they working on? What are their priorities? So super excited to hear our oil and gas forum. Mark, thanks for coming in today and giving us just a teeny little peek of what we can expect with the forum. And I will point out too that if you're coming to the show in Houston, Mark will be out on the show floor a little bit as well. He'll be in the industries pavilion, so you'll get a chance to say hey to him and ask him any questions if you want to.
And Nicole, we're bringing one of our podcasts live to the floor. We don't have all the details worked out yet, but if you want to see what we do and see it live, it's going to happen at the forum.
So exciting. So exciting. Thank you very much, Mark. We look forward to seeing you at the show. And for those of you watching our live stream, you can pre-register for the Oil and Gas Forum as part of how you signed up for Automation Fair Online. You can also show up at the door. You can also watch it as part of the virtual event if you're not attending the show as well. So if you have anything as you've been listening to us here that you are like, oh, I'm excited about this, or you notice that maybe we're totally glancing over a topic that you really want to hear people address, put some notes below for us in the comments. We've got 2 weeks until the show still. We're pretty flexible. We'll try to work it in, okay? So let's shift gears one final time, and we'll bring up Kelvin Hurdle, who is going to be moderating our water wastewater forum. Hey, Kelvin, nice to see you.
Hey, Nicole, how have you been?
Good, good.
Great,
So,
great to be here.
Kelvin, I hear smart water all the time at Rockwell Automation, which is just like such an interesting term to me. Can you describe like what do we mean when we're saying smart water? How is this describing digital transformation for water wastewater utilities?
Well, it's an interesting time, Nicole, in the water industry because the water wastewater industry as a whole has been very risk averse, right? So it certainly is not an early adopter of technology, but there are certain drivers that are driving this digital transformation in water wastewater that's really forcing the industry as a whole to look at what is going to allow them to produce water and clean the water as efficiently as possible. And when we look at the need for the municipalities to become part of the holistic smart cities, because you hear a lot about smart cities as well, right? So as a city becomes smarter, it has to also tie in the water and wastewater side of their ecosphere. So it's forcing the industry to adopt the technologies that, quite frankly, Rockwell has been at the leading edge of for so long. We're now applying those to the water industry. There's a great deal of population growth still occurring. Obviously, we're all aware of the need to improve our infrastructure. A lot of old piping, a lot of old infrastructure that hopefully will get additional funding once a stimulus plan is passed. And quite frankly, one of the major drivers toward digital transformation and smart water is the aging workforce that we have in our industry. There are a lot of personnel that are retiring. They've been in the industry for 40, 50 years. It's the maintenance operators who used to be able to, listen to a machine, listen to a pump, and could tell you exactly when that pump was going to fail, right? Well, as they leave, how do you now look at that same operation, that same pumping system, and predict, right? Or at least know that a failure is going to occur. So all these things are coming together to drive the need to adapt digital transformation in the water wastewater industry, Nicole.
Yeah, so I mean, you just mentioned equipment maintenance, definitely a key use case for water wastewater companies. Some of this equipment is huge and expensive, and you guys, there's this pressure to be always on, like you
That's
literally need to
correct.
be always on.
That's right. That's
What
right.
are some other areas that water wastewater plants are looking at when it comes to digital solutions? Like, what are some other use cases for them?
Well, the interesting thing about our forum, Nicole, is that we're going to actually have two presenters that are from municipalities. So they're actually working in the area at the treatment plant, seeing the processes that go on, seeing what needs to be corrected, what needs to be upgraded. So we're going to actually have them present some solutions that they've put in place around digital transformation. So our audience will actually be able to see not just what Rockwell is showing on the trade floor, on the show floor at Automation Fair, but also listen to operators and plant superintendents that are putting these in practice and putting those solutions into action. And then we're also going to have a speaker that is from the consultant community that's going to be speaking about how they took some solutions and worked with a customer of theirs in the water industry to improve upon a particular process. So I don't want to give away everything now because we obviously want people to come in here and listen. So yeah, we plan on doing a split session where we're going to have these speakers present, and then we'll go into a panel mode where we'll be taking questions from the audience. We'll be taking questions from all those that are in their offices and live streaming, listening during the live stream. So we'll be responding to everything coming across in the chat and giving a real opportunity for the audience to be a part of the whole session that we have at the forum.
Nice, cool, Calvin. Well, thank you for that little peek at what's to come. And yes, don't give it all away. We need people to still show up for it. But that
Absolutely.
was fabulous. I think we've had a chance to hear about several of the industry forums today. There are more as well. We have mining metals and cement. We have a power and energy forum. There's a forum that's targeted at equipment manufacturers. So check them out. Make sure when you are registering for Automation Fair that you look at the forums. You can pick which ones you want to say that you're attending if you like. If you're already registered, you can log back in and see all the different forums and the times. They're also on our website as well. We would love to see you there live. If you don't make it live, though, we will have these recorded and broadcast to you as well. So down below in the chat, if you heard anything today that you're excited about, let us know. If you think we're missing anything that you really want to hear about, stick it down there in the comments. But thank you so much for coming today. Thank you all for watching and sharing your thoughts in the comments. And thank you so much to our forum moderators for joining us on this live stream, giving us a little peek into some of the excitement that's starting to get built up around Automation Fair. So once again, I'm Nicole Bulanda. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't registered for Automation Fair, shame on you. Go do that right now, and we'll see you at the show. Thanks.